Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. This is the podcast. Highlights from today's show, which he had 1 till 4 on the platform. Martin, Devlin, Lachlan Moore. Warriors tonight versus Rabbits. Must-win game. Make no mistake about that. Full house. David Morrow, continuous call team out of Oz, and Warriors CEO Cam George on the show. Our under-20 side, our baby All Blacks, just got absolutely smacked up physically by France at the World Cup. How much of a worry is that for the next few years of New Zealand rugby? The Ashes. Bazball, Bob Bye, stop the bollocks right now. This is just a joke. You English cricketers are a bunch of clowns. Go back to doing what you should be doing, which is winning test matches and winning the Ashes. Bing bong la la cuckoo bollocks. As always, to start the program, tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. Let us go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. This is why I don't do politics on this show, because I despise this government. And no, I'm not anti-Labour. In fact, for most of the elections I voted in my life, I voted Labour. I came from a left-leaning Labour household in Upper Hutt. What I am is anti-incompetence. And this latest bunch of cretins have completely cocked up this country. 6 years they've been in power. And ask yourself, honestly, are we better off individually, collectively, as a country than we were before this coalition came to power? Come on. No one can seriously suggest that we are. I live in Auckland. We have a crime wave up here at a level now that I have never seen before. I'm 59 years old. I have never seen street crime like it. Violent robberies. Personally, I've been the victim of an attempted hit and run. The police did nothing. They never came. 12 weeks after this, they told me and my partner that a random nutcase mounting the footpath and trying to run us both over was not worth taking to court. They didn't want to convict him because he's an immigrant. I've seen people blatantly rob service station shelves. I've seen scum losers ripping open courier packages clearly not belonging to them that they've stolen from other people's porches while they're walking past. This is the reality of life up here in Auckland right now. As a country, we have rampant inflation. Tomorrow, petrol goes up 29 cents a goddamn litre. It costs $5 to buy a capsicum at the supermarket. You know how much it costs now to fill your shopping bags at the supermarket and how little you get compared to what you got even a year ago. We pay record prices in this country for power, for our food, for cell phones, interest rates on mortgages. We have truancy rates the worst in the Western world. We murder a child every 2 days. Our domestic violence rates are amongst the worst in the world. Our roads are full of potholes, they never get fixed. Every time it rains heavy in Auckland, raw sewage pumps into the harbour. We have no drainage here. We have no public transport here. For every 2 people who work in this country, we subsidise some loser who chooses to be unemployed because they're too lazy or incompetent or incapable of working. And all our government can think of is banning plastic bags at the supermarket and accusing every white man in the country of being a violent colonial rapist. That is New Zealand today. That is New Zealand right now. That is this absolutely beautiful country that I've always loved, I've always adored. We have a PM belting us about climate change who then flies a bloody spare plane up to China with no one on it. We got a parliament, and this is all of them, all of the politicians who do nothing but bicker and fight and catcall and spend billions of our precious taxpayers' dollars on the most wasteful, pointless projects, many of which don't even make the light of day, like the TVNZ RNZ merger. They don't even come to fruition. That is New Zealand right now, and that's what we've been left with after 6 years of Labour in power. That is the truth. Yet our sycophantic, bum-kissing, hide everything, tell nothing media won't even report it. That is why I don't and I won't talk politics. Big bunch of butt-covering, do-nothing, effing pony load of bollocks.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Sports news headlines and cock-a-doodle-doo and celebration for a group of young women who have been named football ferns for the upcoming World Cup.
Yes, indeedy. A lot of that was covered in the top of our news just now, but I will run through a little bit of this squad. 10 football ferns players will make their Women's World Cup debuts as part of the 23-strong squad. I would have thought there would have been more than 23 players. I guess that's
it's 2 teams.
2 11s with a reserve.
Yeah,
okay, makes sense. That group of 23, of course, contesting the FIFA Women's World Cup co-hosted by New Zealand and Australia. Coach Jitka Klimkova has made the final cuts to her 33-player extended squad that she had named. The roster features a mix of experience and youth, with Elizabeth Anton, Claudia Bunge, teenager Millie Clegg, Michaela Foster, daughter of Ian Foster, Jackie Hand, Grace Jarley, who I went to school with, by the way. Grace Jarley.
Yahoo.
Yeah, Blockbuster Bay native. She won't remember me, but, good on her. Anna Leet, Gabby Rennie, India Page Riley and Malia Steinmetz, all named for their first World Cup appearance. So wonderful day for those 10 young women who'll be competing at the World Cup. A special day, a day of celebration, and I caught a bit of the live stream. Names were called out by Jitka Klimkova, and then they go on the stage. They're presented with, I think, a brooch from some football fan-related personality, and then they usually have a family member or a friend, a parent or whatever, present them with their jersey, and there's a nice photo taken on stage. Lots of smiles, wonderful day. All right, to rugby. The Black Ferns have kicked off their 2023 international season with a massive win over Australia in Redcliffe, 50 points to nil. It's also a great start for coach Alan Bunting in his first outing as the national 15s coach. To men's rugby, junior rugby, New Zealand suffered a record loss against France in the Under-20s World Cup in South Africa, losing 35-14. It was 35-7. We got a consolation try at the end. And the name of this young French lock, who was the nephew of Manu Tuolangi, plays for England, or did play for England, I don't know if he still does, and the son of Henry Tuolangi, this ridiculously massive, scarily huge Samoan international, who I think if you go back and watch the 2007 Rugby World Cup, a match against the Springboks, he absolutely bowls over Schalk Burger, who you don't bowl over. Anyway, this guy, Posolo Tuolangi, is the son of that man, the nephew of Manu Tuolangi. He weighs 150 kgs. He's 19.
I can't even imagine how big that is.
It was like a single-man maul of him against about 4 New Zealanders crashing over for a try.
And Clark Ladle, the New Zealand coach, who's going on to, of course, coach the Hurricanes, he says, our guys aren't used to playing against guys that big. Well, get used to it, mate, because when you become real big boys, that's what happens.
A better way for Clark Ladle to say that is that, we don't play against them much. We better change that.
Tackle around the ankles, mate.
Yeah. The Crusaders will test the waters for a future World Club competition, when they embark on their first international tour early next year. The Super Rugby Pacific champions are heading north to play Munster on February 3rd and Bristol Bears on February 9th. And I believe Bristol Bears are coached by Pat Lam, former Blues coach. England slashed Australia's first innings lead of 416 to 138 after 2 days of the second Ashes test at Lords, though the bad news for the hosts. In comfortably scoring 278 runs, there were 4 wickets that were, you could say, gifted to the Aussies. Stumps after 2 days, Australia did post 416, England currently 278 for 4 at stumps. They trail by 138. Harry Brooks there unbeaten on 45, brilliant young batsman. Apart from that, Ben Tucker got 98 before being dismissed. Joe Root only managed 10. The Cronulla Sharks have hammered the St George Illawarra Dragons 52-16 in the first NRL match of round 18. Manchester United have agreed a deal to sign England midfielder Mason Mount from Chelsea. 5-year contract, £55 million plus $5 million in add-ons, so it'll be $60 million. What a move, Martin. Man United, they're back. And just finally, Swimming New Zealand. Here's a really interesting story. Swimming New Zealand has axed its national training camp ahead of next month's World Championships in Japan, arguing its top athletes want less time away from home in this phase of the build-up to next year's Olympics. That is despite the country's leading men's medal hope in the pool at Paris next year being Lewis Clareburt. He credited last year's camp in Mallorca, Spain, as a key contributor to his 3 medals at the Commonwealth Games, of course 2 of those being golds. So swimmers don't want to be away from home, they don't want to go on this camp for the World Champs, and that contrasts what Lewis Clareburt said last year about these camps actually being really good for them and beneficial. Really interesting story. That story coming from the New Zealand Herald. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin.
Oh my goodness me!
The platform.
David Morrow from the Continuous Call team out of Sydney is absolutely brilliant. This radio show is. Let's talk about the Warriors. Where is the team at right now, mate?
Well, at the end of last weekend, I didn't say make a silly comment. I just said, don't be surprised if the Warriors play the North Queensland Cowboys in the grand final.
Wow.
Because it was shock horror on Darryl Broman's face. But I read a little column today written by none other than one of the all-time greats, Andrew Johns, who talks about the Warriors maybe a chance of winning the premiership and the Cowboys maybe a chance of winning the premiership. So maybe I'm not so stupid, but one quote he's given today, Andrew Webster has to be the Dally M Coach of the Year. That's out of Andrew John's own mouth. That says a bit about the Warriors.
Wow. Well, we've got a fair few games to go in the season yet, but what he's obviously alluding to is the momentum right now of both sides, right?
Yeah, and they've got the thing about the Warriors is their defence. As I said to you earlier, and Andrew points out a few little things their forwards are doing. He said they're finding gaps, and as a result, Sean Johnson's probably playing the best football he's played for years, and he's really enjoying it, and all the backs are enjoying it. And what about Martini Zelezniak? I don't think you wind the clock back 10 years to when he was doing this sort of stuff. He's been outstanding. And you look at the draw, you got 5 at home, you got 4 away, and you got a bye. The 4 away games, 3 of those, well, you'd think on paper you should win. The Dolphins, the Gold Coast, and the West Tigers. The other away games, Parramatta. If you win all the games at home, you'll be not only in the top 4, you might even be in the top 2, which means you win one game, you get a preliminary final at home, and then you win that game, of course, you're in the big one. So there's a lot to look forward to, I reckon, as a Warriors fan.
Starting tonight against the Rabbits, though, and, even a few weeks ago, this game was flagged as like a real competitive test. You get over this game. Does that change it all because of the form that the Rabbits are not bringing in?
It doesn't. They'll come prepared, but, I'm just not sure. I called their game last week, and they were just totally out enthused. This is admittedly, we talk about the North Queensland momentum starting to build, and that was what it was built off. But they didn't, they didn't have their best players out there in North Queensland. They had some of them. But the Rabbits, they looked ordinary. And Cody Walker probably had the worst game I think I've seen him, but he was coming back from injury. And that is the big danger for the Warriors tonight if Walker's on song. But Johnston looked as if he was carrying an injury. Of course, no Latrell Mitchell. But when he's not there, they just don't seem to fire. And some of the forwards look tired. And Murray, you can understand if he was a bit tired last week, backing up from State of Origin. But it's I don't know what it is, but Souths at times this year have looked lethargic. And if they don't start looking at themselves in the mirror, they will lose tonight, and they'll find themselves out of the 8. And that's something no one would have thought of about 5 weeks ago when people were touting Souths as the premiership favourites.
A couple of things about this. Are they getting good headlines now, the Warriors in Australia? Are people appreciating this? Is it a good thing for the competition that they're playing well?
Oh, it is. It's a good thing for the competition. Whether they're getting the headlines, but I said, here's Andrew Johns, who has a big column in the Sydney Morning Herald every Thursday, and he's talking refreshingly about the Cowboys and the Warriors, and perhaps sneaking under the radar of some people's thoughts, which is, this is the thing that I think every team at different times this year has been touted as potential premiers.
Yep.
You can knock 5 of those out. It's an amazing competition. But the Warriors are getting... I think people have started to take notice that when the Warriors scored... They beat the Dragons easily, yes, and the Dragons are running last in the comp, yes. But the Dragons rarely lose in Wollongong. And the Warriors could have doubled that score last week, which says a lot about them. Doesn't say too much about the Dragons, but it just says where they're at. Now, they hadn't won. They won twice, I think, previously. They'd only won 2 games in Wollongong in the entire career of the New Zealand Warriors until last Friday night. So, there's something that's going really well. And I've said to you when we spoke earlier this year, the thing about Andrew Webster is not just his ability to get the side to attack well, they're defending better than any Warriors team, I reckon, I've ever seen defend. I may be wrong. I haven't got the figures in front of me, but I'm only just saying what my eyes are seeing. They're defending goal line better than ever.
And it's then being able to recover from defending like that and then go down the other end and actually counter-punch and score points. That's what's really impressing, I think, a lot of fans here. The ability to absorb and then the ability to lash afterwards.
Well, they're helped there, haven't they? They've got Johnson, who's got a great brain. They've got the winger who just, it doesn't matter where the ball goes, somehow he's on the end of it. And they've got forwards. Fanua, the big bloke, Fanua Blake, he's just... He is playing better than any prop forward in the competition, I reckon. And while he's going forward and while he's fit, they're a huge chance. They've got some great back rowers. Everyone doing their job. I mean, the fact that Curran's coming off the bench, 25, 30 minutes into the game as he has the last couple of weeks, this bloke can hurt in defence and hurt you very much in attack. So something's going really well there. And I think I heard Sean Johnson say after the game last week, he said, we're a great bunch of blokes. We enjoy each other's company. And he said, we're having fun. And it really just said to me that they're really enjoying their footy. And that's one thing, is with the Warriors, you've got to get them all happy together. And if you get them all happy together, anything can happen.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. I'm the Minister of Common Sense.
Next!
I am the Minister of Common Sense.
Next!
Well, I don't have to tell you why, and I don't need to talk about it.
We need to talk.
We
need to talk.
Why are you the minister? Who appointed you?
I appointed myself, as a matter of fact, and that's just how the government works these days, okay? Because it's either you appoint somebody that you know, some family member, or you just appoint yourself.
Next!
David Morrow says there it is all about defence. He mentioned it 3 or 4 times while we were chatting. That was one of the big takeaways I got from there. Is that also the most significant difference that you have noticed in the Warriors so far this year?
Yes, absolutely. And we've both said it pretty much all year, at least I have. I can't really track back and pinpoint exactly what you've been saying, but defence, I feel like, is an attitude thing. Not that I know anything about coaching or know really a lot about rugby league by
Everyone
comparison.
says it's an attitude thing.
Yeah,
right?
but it is an attitude thing. I think it's more about that than your skill set, and I think it's all about commitment. It's all about just going through the rigours and the motions consistently, sets after sets. It's just a mental toughness type thing. And the Warriors are just whacking it out of the park this year. They really are.
Can you
Next!
draw the parallels in with every other sport? If you staunch up on defence and look at the way that, for example, that the Canterbury Crusaders attacked the Blues in that semi-final.
The Cadbury Crusaders,
Sorry,
did you
the
say?
Canterbury Crusaders. Look at the way that they did it in the final last year, the Super Rugby final. If you smack hard in defence, every single Premier League side that I watch, if you don't concede a goal, you're not going to lose the game. At the very worst, you're going to draw it, isn't it? So it sounds the most simple thing of all in sport, but it is also the most effective. And look at any sport, NBA basketball. If you defend well, if you protect your end, then that's half the job done, isn't it?
Yeah, well, because by doing that, you're
giving yourself a chance to win the game.
Yeah, but you're completely minimalising the other team's ability to do their thing, if that makes sense. And so the moment you do that, think about it whenever you're doing any sort of job, when you're at work, when you're, doing anything. When things are going well, you're in a bit of a groove. When you, working hard, you got some music blaring in your ears, you just feel like you're going well, going hard. And there's times where you don't feel like that. Something's gone wrong. You whacked your knee on the desk. I don't know. Your cat scratched your head this morning. Interview falls over. Hit the wrong button on the bar or something. It throws you off kilter. I think it's the same thing with defence. When you can do that to other people, you make them uncomfortable and you force them into mistakes. Or hold up, then they get a bit nervous. They overthink ththings. They overcompensate. Whatever. When you can limit the other person's game, it totally sets you up perfectly.
Next!
Put your Warriors fan hat on for a second, and
I don't have a Warriors
I've got mine
fan hat.
We're going to the Warriors tonight. Okay,
I'm going for the Bunnies.
Are you going for the Bunnies tonight?
No, I've took the Warriors. So.
Okay, so what is your biggest worry going into this game as a Warriors fan? My biggest worry is simply that a Rabbits side, which we know is a good side, I know that they're missing a trail, but they aren't shite. Okay, they may have won one out of the last 5, but they are capable.
They're a good side,
well, that's my biggest worry is they do come to play, and it's one of those games. But I thought the same with St. George last weekend. Going to Wollongong, I thought, okay, this is a ground we never win on. This is a ground that they always win on. Is it going to be one of those games? And, of course, we smack the pants off them, right?
My biggest worry would be complacency. The crowd and the likelihood of it being their highest attended game this year and probably their highest attended regular season game in a very, very long time. Could be the highest ever. So the crowd that'll draw, the Warriors really good form, everyone's getting on the wagon, everything's clicking, you're feeling good as a team, things are going well, you're fifth on the table and you could get into the top 4 if you win tonight, and this end of the season's getting close, you're believing the hype, that you just take your foot off the pedals slightly. And up against, as you say, it's a wounded Rabbitohs side. They are a very good team, the Rabbitohs. They are a very, very good team.
See, this is the worry ward stuff I worry about as well. Everything is going swimmingly, so therefore at some stage it's going to come a guts.
Next!
Couple more questions. Does the Cronulla result add any pressure to tonight? Because Cronulla belted the Dragons
It
last.
shouldn't do. If the Warriors are a good side and they're a finals team, whatever goes on around them shouldn't matter. All that matters is your task and what's ahead of you. You take care of your business. That's all that matters.
Next!
Final question then. Does it matter whether the Australian press, the league shows over there, pay any attention to the Warriors, pay credit to the Warriors, that the Warriors get extra attention over the ditch? Does it matter at all?
I think when they're playing well, they should, and they do though. I think if you watch a lot of those shows, especially the Fox Sports ones that we get here in New Zealand, they do credit the Warriors. A lot of those blokes, they're not so one-eyed that they never give credit to, there's the way that they talk about the Warriors. Oh, New Zealand's such a big part of our game.
No,
And the
bollocks
fans
that,
over.
mate.
You guys don't care about us. But when the Warriors do perform well, they do give them credit. They don't want to see them win it.
No.
The worst thing in the world that could happen is the Warriors to win the grand final.
They would absolutely.
They would be booed like hell in the grand final if they won it.
It was like, the only parallel I can draw in world sport was when the Toronto Blue Jays won MLB. And Major League Baseball and American sport hated it. They're quite happy winning the Stanley Cup, taking that off Canada, bringing it south, right? But the idea that any Canadian side could win one of their competitions, I just think Australia would resent it. I'm not so sure. Look, when the Breakers were winning, I don't think it's that much of a bigger deal compared to what us in an NRL
there's an
competition.
historical primal attitude with rugby league.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
their game, and there's a New Zealand team that's come along and won their comp. Yeah.
Devlin,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
the platform.
Great text is coming from Jamie. He says, afternoon, lads. Why is it the more the Aussie commentators talk up the Warriors, the more nervous I become, and I think the wheels are about to fall off. I want them to go back to writing us off. I'm so with you on that. The flying under the radar stuff, that to me is... Yeah, this is making me nervous as well, that all of a sudden you just kind of feel, look, and it will happen at some stage. The Warriors are going to lose a game. Maybe not, maybe bloody hell. Maybe they can go through the rest of the competition unbeaten, but out of the next 9 games, you'd expect they might lose even one. Time though for Best of the Week.
It's the iOS Best of the Week. Best of the Week.
Massive production number. Big finish, big finish, big finish, big finish. Subtle finish. Including Ian Foster, All Blacks coach, Tohu Harris, Warriors captain, Murray Mexted, All Black legend, and Daniel Hillier, who is going great guns now on the DP tour. These are just 4 of the very special guests that we have had this week. And let's start it with the All Black coach, who very generously gave us about 20 minutes yesterday. One of the questions put to Ian Foster was simply about the style. What kind of style do you want your team, our team, the All Blacks, to be playing this year?
We've got an attacking mindset. We always have. It's how we want to go into this year, and we want to make sure that we don't overstructure our game, that we end up becoming a little bit too robotic in what we do. And so it's a matter of just empowering players to when we see space, to actually look at taking it and making sure that we've got the skill set and the support systems to back those decisions. So it sounds a bit technical, but it's actually trying to make the game a little bit less complicated and straightforward. And as long as we look after the ball and with the breakdown and our ball carrier work, then that gives us confidence to really just back ourselves to make those sort of decisions. So that's that side of the ball, Marty. And I think the other side of the ball is, we've just got to, I think, ramp up some of, our accuracy and intensity and how we defend. We're a good defensive team, but I think there's another couple of cogs in us in that space, and certainly going into the World Cup, that's going to be a massive focus for us.
Look, I liked hearing that when he first said it to us, because the All Blacks are going to have to play different. You saw with the Black Ferns last year at the World Cup that we're not muscling up and we're not actually overpowering and running over the top of teams. You've seen it with the under-20 Baby Blacks. This All Black side, in terms of the size and power of our forward pack, we have to play smart. I'm not saying that we can't get tough. Of course we can. But I just think that to go to this tournament and to think that we're going to out Ireland or out France or out South Africa, that's not the way that we're going to win it. We don't win like that. We win by playing smarts. We win because we have better skills. And he was talking also about utilising space, about looking for space rather than just waiting for an opportunity. All of these things. I like hearing that. Ian Foster's reaction to Jeff Wilson's comments, and also just the other noise that's all around, comments from all kinds of people about who should be selected, why should they be selected, Sean Stevenson in there, but especially to Ardy coming off the bench as opposed to starting.
I really respect people have got different views, and I actually like that. And it's I do chuckle when people say, "Oh, have you thought of this?" We think
you are the All Black coach after all,
I just want to reassure you, we do actually think about some things.
Good on you.
And,
yeah.
That's what the last 3 months is about filtering different plans. And sometimes people have really good ideas that solve a problem, but there's a reaction that creates another one. So, I've got no doubt that the likes of Ardy would be an outstanding bench player. but he's also an outstanding starter. So, what you gain in one aspect, you want to make sure you don't lose in the other. So no, look, we listen, but clearly we've got a plan. And, you look at, and I guess the debate about the back three, well, we've always looked at Super Rugby form. We get excited by it. And then we have to interpret Super Rugby form and translate that to Test match rugby. And then say, okay, well, what's that likely to look like, and how are we going to integrate that? So, the Sean Stevenson one's a classic, and ironically, he's here for a reason, because he's earned the right and he's played well, and the door's open for him. So we are, while he's in here, we're going to make sure we look to see how his skill set could work in our game, and how we can maybe grow other parts.
No surprise at all that Ian Foster is prepared to admit that. I like the fact, but for years, we've been suffocated, haven't we, when we talk to anyone from rugby? I don't watch the media, I don't listen to the media, I don't listen to Twitter, I don't read the things. Of course they do. It's like the person who puts on their letterbox, no flyers, please, no advertising. They're the first person I go to. Do you know why? Because they're telling you loud and clear that they've got no self-control. And if you put something in their letterbox, they're going to buy the bloody thing, right? Of course, Ian Foster hears all of this. And there are times that they probably chuckle. There are times that I bet that they go, actually, that does make a little bit of sense. Why not? Because some of the best rugby brains in the country are continuously commentating and making calls. Final bit of Ian Foster before we go to Daniel Hillier. Do you have your 15 in place for the Argentinian test? Have you selected it already?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've certainly got it penciled on my spreadsheet. I've probably got a bit of convincing to do with a few other people, but no, we're pretty set on that. We're, out of all the teams that we're going into, this is the one that we've always got to, we'll have some final conversations on the weekend and when we're in the plane and get that nailed, because we really do have to assess where players are at this week, and we're looking at how much energy. There's still a few niggles that we've got to get on top of. It's stopped a few people training, so all those variables will come to play. So I think the Argentinian game, the plan will probably change a little bit than perhaps what we started with, but hopefully after that, from South Africa onwards, we're able to really get settled into our work.
Ian Foster, who we spoke to yesterday, thank you very much to the All Black coach and also the management who organised this for us and give us a good 17, 18, maybe even close to 20 minutes where you get the chance to ask some questions, sit back and actually listen. Listen to him talking. And this is the frustration, obviously, I find with the sports media in this country, is that everything's only a soundbite. You never get a chance to do a long-form interview. Well, we do on this program, and I hope that you appreciate the amount of time that we get given with Ian. If you want to hear that whole interview, it's on Spotify. It's up as its own podcast. You can, via Platform Plus, if you subscribe, go back and listen to all the shows right throughout the week, this week, last week, whatever, and to all the interviews in full form as well. Hopefully, if you do, you might just get a bit of insight into how his mind's working. I'm not asking you to decide and choose between Ian Foster and Scott Robertson. I believe that they're both damn good coaches. But right now, our All Black coach is Ian Foster. Ian Foster has taken us through this Rugby Championship and to the World Cup. Nothing is going to change between now and then. Get it out of your head. It's moronic to even think that, we're going to lose a game and they're going to replace this coach. They are not. He is in charge through to the Rugby World Cup. So I think, look, for me as an All Black fan, it's important for me just to, I suppose, understand what the hell he's actually thinking and where his mindset and where his management, where his guys are. And what their plans are. And I felt very reassured, I must admit, after listening to that interview again, which we did today. That doesn't mean we're going to win every game. I know, because I still believe that I think our cattle is a little light. But it's up to those players to perform and to win test matches for us. All right, let's turn our attention then to Daniel Hillier, who we had on Tuesday. It was. This young man, 24, 25 years old. He's been playing professional golf since he was about 15. Last year we spoke to him as he was trying to get his DP Tour card. This is the European Tour. Well, he's got it. Started playing tournaments last year in November. He's played 15, but it's just the last 3 tournaments where he started to get on a roll. 3 tournaments ago, he came 5th, picked himself up a nice paycheck, didn't make the cut, and then on the weekend, the BMW Open, 3rd equal. He was actually leading after a couple of rounds, and again, big fat payout, which certainly helps. So simply when we started talking to Daniel, it was just after that weekend, how well are you playing, mate?
Honestly, it's been a bit of a mixed bag. Had a few miscuts of late, but obviously a couple of decent results in recent times. So, yeah, I guess it's kind of can be difficult to put a finger on it, but I think, the weeks where I have done well, it's really been down to me just, playing to my own strengths and, making sure that I'm limiting, all the bad areas as much as I can. And, when I do that and I just play my game and play to the plan that I've, drawn up at the start of the week, then it tends to go pretty well. So I just got to focus on doing that a bit more, I think.
And when you play well, when you're swinging well, when you start doing money, all of that kind of stuff, do you just want the tournaments to keep coming? Do you want to keep competing? Do you think, I don't want a day off, I don't want a weekend off, I just want to keep playing golf?
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, it's obviously a big confidence booster for me having a couple of good results lately. And I mean, I like playing in the UK. I've played well here in the past, and so it's going to be another exciting week. And having close calls like I did, I obviously had those two weeks where I played well, and both weeks was towards the end I had a chance to win and didn't quite get over the line, and that's I guess makes me more hungry to try and get over the line next time I'm in that position. So hopefully I get another chance to give it another crack in the near future.
Do you fully believe that you can win one of these tournaments?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think I proved last week that my game's definitely good enough to be there. It's just a couple of shots here or there that can make all the difference. And so I think even though I haven't quite got over the line yet, I'm pretty certain that if I keep going the way I am, then hopefully it'll happen in the near future.
Devlin,
You've gotta love sport.
the platform.
Warriors CEO Cameron George joins us. About time we had a good catch up. Look, the front office has got to be doing their job, or else the rest of the ship is not sailing in the direction you need it to sail in. So, Cameron, welcome back. And what are you doing right? Cameron, you put up the sold-out signs a week ago. How good does that feel as a CEO when that happens?
Yeah, it's great. But it's a reflection of the hard work from the club across the board, from our community foundation right through to our playing group and staff right through the organisation. Everyone has a role to play. And I'm just so proud for our fans that our boys are doing their job, and the organisation is doing their best, and our fans are really enjoying that. So, they've been starved of it for a long time, and things like this, it makes you proud, but we've got a job to do, and we're not forgetting what our role is in that, and we've got to finish off the year the best we can.
A year ago, I gave you a big spray. Things were going terrible. A year ago, mate. A year ago, the team was 4-11 at this time. Now we're 9-6. And I wanted to get you on because I think, look, it's easy to be a critic when times are tough, but when times are going well and the club has improved, and everyone points to Andrew Webster and says, yes, Webby's come along and he's made enormous changes. But I think credit where credit is due, because it feels like the organisation has changed, and that's what I wanted to ask you about. What are you doing differently a year later, or has it changed? You tell me.
Yeah, mate, it has. We had the opportunity, Martin, and your spray had some merit to it. I get that. We were in a pretty dark place, and a lot of people in the community were with what was going on. But we had people playing for us and working for us that were just there because of COVID, because we're stuck in Australia. They didn't really buy into the Warrior culture, and we lost our identity. That's my fault. I let it slip through our hands while we're away. So I seized the opportunity coming back to make sure we didn't miss it, to reset our organisation, and we did so through a number of initiatives, which I'll take you through another time. But everyone got on board, from players to staff, and we had a big session at the start of the year. We washed away the COVID experience, and we accepted that it's part of our history and our future's in our hands. But we created our identity, and we are now living by it day in, day out. And, from Webby to players to staff in the back room to the community foundation, we all live by what we stand for as a Warrior. And that's something we reset this year and reintroduced. And I'm just driving the environment. Everyone's doing a lot of hard work, and I'm only one part of the whole team. So credit to all the staff and the players.
We had Tohu on the program during the week, and I asked him that question, and I said, look, I don't want to revisit it too much, but I played him a quote of Stacey when Stacey was sitting there saying how disappointed he was with the team, and Tohu said exactly what you've just said. He said, listen, he said at the start of the year, we actually acknowledged that. We accepted it, we looked back at it, and we said it ain't going to happen again, and we shut the door on it. And I was so pleased to hear that, because you can't go forward without first actually looking at that wart and going, okay, I've got to treat that bugger, don't I?
Yeah, that's right. Like, mate, I'm not one for sports psychs and academic approaches and all that sort of thing. Trust me, we don't do that at the Warriors. But I tracked down, through the advice of some really good sporting minds, and tracked down a really good operator to come and do a session. We tailored it to what we've experienced, and we did a big, I'm just going to use my words here, we did a big washout session of the COVID experience. And when we did it for 4 or 5 hours at the ground one day, and at Mount Smart, and every player and every staff member was involved. But what we learned from it, when we peeled back all the shit times, was actually there was a lot of positive in there that we weren't seeing. And then we really amplified those positive experiences, and every player and everyone, we were actually really surprised at some of the really good stuff we got out of it. And mate, we just really addressed it and threw it in the bin, all the bad stuff, and grabbed hold of some of the good stuff, put everyone and connected everyone back with our families, our fans, and our home base. And it's just really gelled into a really strong belief in that, stuff everyone else. This is our time now, and let's go after it. And you mix that in with good staff and good players, and our fans are enjoying the outcome. So it's great for everyone involved in our footy club, media, right through to fans.
One little side subject. This week, Auckland Rugby League say they've done a pathways and development deal with Manly and other NRL clubs, but not with the Warriors. Where do you sit with this? Do you because it kind of just on the surface, when you hear a story like that, you think, why the hell aren't Auckland Rugby League, who used to be a part owner of the Warriors, why aren't they kind of in some kind of synergy with you guys?
Mate, it's disappointing. For me, it just flies in the face what your organisation's supposed to do, and that's retain talent and develop and grow talent within New Zealand and enhance the quality of competitions, and basically doing deals with NRL clubs based in Australia. All you're doing is opening up the door. We provided the Auckland Rugby League a proposal back in October of last year after discussions in July. Look, it wasn't presented to the clubs at a club day. We later withdrew the proposal because we went and did something different, because we weren't hearing back. Went and did something different with PAC to help out the kids. But I mean, like, to go and do deals with, Manly and the likes, good on Manly, good on the other clubs. But all it's doing is opening up the door for these kids to go offshore. And that's not what governing bodies in New Zealand should be doing, regardless of the sport. We should be trying to retain the talent. We've got 6 teams in the competition next year with great pathways. Work with us. If we win the competition, Martin, rugby league will explode in this country. If Manly win the competition, it won't have an impact on on rugby league in this country. If the Roosters win the comp, it won't have an impact on the rugby league in this country. But if we win it, it'll explode. That's our job. We're trying to do that in the retail shop front. Auckland Rugby League to go and do things like this, and they're having discussions with other clubs. That's their call, but I truly don't think it's the right thing for rugby league's future. I don't believe it works in line with what New Zealand Rugby League is all about. We work closely with NZRL. We're trying to do things with them, but to read that and hear that, it's extremely disappointing on our part, because all it does is send kids offshore that could be representing the Warriors and furthermore, and most importantly, the Kiwis.
It's time for more chance of happening. So I'm going to give you a scenario, Lachlan, before we go and talk Ashes cricket with our man Bernie Cohen out of Australia, who spent all night last night watching it. He wants to go to bed, so we're going to go and talk with him about where this Bing Bong test sits after day 2. But this is what has more chance of happening. I'll present some scenarios to you and you decide. What is more chance of happening? The Warriors make the top 6, or you go to a Tay-Tay concert in Australia?
Wait, sorry, say that again? Warriors make top 6 or I go to a Taylor Swift concert in Australia? What's more likely?
Yeah, what's going on?
Warriors make top 6. I'm not going to a Taylor Swift concert. In Australia, at least. I could be convinced if I was...
What would convince you? Okay, what would
here.
convince you to go to a Tay-Tay concert here?
Well, if I was told to. If I was with...
If you're chasing Tail and Tail wanted to go to Tay-Tay, you'd go to Tay-Tay.
Of course. Though when you're chasing and you're wanting, you sell out your values, you sell everything out.
You know.
Yeah. You
Keys to the cash box, you'll do whatever it takes, all right?
Next!
What is more chance of happening? The football ferns make it out of the group stage at the upcoming World Cup, or Man City do another treble next year? You know the answer to this. You don't want to say it.
No, I don't want to say it.
You don't want to say it.
Probably the second one.
And that's realistic, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
We're not being silly about this. Okay, the football ferns have a real uphill battle. I'm not saying they can't do it, but given the form over the last year where they struggle to get out of their half, score a goal, string half a dozen passes together, this is what I've been watching. And I know they've been in camp for 9 weeks. They're going to be fit. They're going to be strong. But are they going to be good enough? And the teams that we're playing, that United States team that came here at the start of the year and dicked us 4 and 5-0, that's not the US team.
No, they're missing a lot
That's
of good
the
players.
US D team is
Well,
what
it's
it
not
was.
the D team. Come on. It was a mix of the A and B
But you
team.
throw the superstars in, and they'll beat us 11 or 12
Well, also,
nil.
if they actually cared.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah,
they knew that they were playing a minnow side. If they had actually done what they tried their best, they would have beaten us 7-8-0.
What is more chance of happening? The New Zealand under-20 men's side do make the semi-finals, mathematical possibility, at the World Cup, or the All Blacks win their World Cup.
What's more likely?
What's more chance of happening?
The All Blacks win the World Cup.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Because for us to make the semis, so there's 3 pools. It's the 3 pool winners, and then I'm pretty sure it's the best second place team.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 in the semis.
4, yeah.
And as it stands in group, we need to beat Japan, and we'd need Wales to beat France by not much enough to pump Japan to then top the group, but that won't happen. France will probably beat Wales because they're a very good side. In Pool B, Ireland, England, and Australia are in that group. Ireland and England drew.
Yeah.
And they're the 2 best teams.
Which is,
and they should win their last game. So that means that the second place team in that group actually will be unbeaten, whereas the other 2 groups, both second place teams will have lost a game. So, yeah.
What is more chance of happening? The Black Ferns lose a match in the Pac-4 tournament.
Who's in that tournament? Australia, Canada, and...
USA. Okay. Or the mainstream media go through this whole tournament without manufacturing a Ruby Tui angle story to include somewhere in the coverage.
What's more likely?
What's more chance of happening?
That they lose a game where Ruby Tui isn't mentioned.
Ooh. You know Ruby Tui's going to be mentioned, right? You know it. They can't help themselves.
Not necessarily.
You've worked in newsrooms. You know how
her being brought up in a story, is that
a story about her?
A story about her. That's probably more likely than them losing a game.
There you go. Yeah. Absolutely. Time to talk some NFL. Season is only about 10 weeks away. Pre-season, only a couple of weeks away. Our man, Kung Wong, at FB Garbage Time. That's his Twitter handle. That's his podcast. He joins us. We're 3 weeks away from training camp. NFL, we are a month or so away from pre-season. We're about 10 weeks away from the season. The most all-consuming sporting competition in the world this is. How much does it still dominate headlines in the US sports market?
Well, it's interesting because the fact that, obviously we've had a lot of other sports headlines, but this time of the year, it's a little bit quiet in the U.S., right? Because the NHL's done, the NBA's done, NFL is just getting ready for training camp, and the only thing that's going on is baseball, and we're only halfway through the season, which means that who cares, right? Until after the All-Star break. So, funny enough, something that's kind of dominated the headlines was this Instagram post by Carson Wentz, famously known as the quarterback with no job right now. Where he apparently shot a black bear when he was visiting Alaska and got a ton of backlash for it. And I think you will agree that if this was, I'm starting to suspect he didn't actually do the shooting. I suspect his brother did.
Yeah.
Because had Carson Wentz shot it, some other bear probably would have intercepted it and, ran it back. So, it seems like it unlikely that that was actually him.
See, that's
Just saying, you know.
that's the most beautiful thing, is that everyone is going to make that joke as soon as they see that photo. They're going to say, hang on, the bear dodged that, caught the bullet, trampled you down, and ran it back for a pick six, you moron.
That's right, and made you look like an idiot as he ran back and handed the bullet back to somebody else. Yeah, it's exactly right. I mean, listen, Carson Wentz. Let's talk about the football side of this. He was 30th in passer rating last year, 30th in quarterback rating. He was 25th in completion percentage. He was 32nd in yards per attempt. You know, no other quarterback started as much as he did and had so little yards per attempt other than Kenny Pickett, the rookie over in Pittsburgh. So he has no job right now, and there are a lot of openings for backup quarterbacks, and nobody wants him. So really strange to flex about that on Instagram right now. Maybe he should be out looking for a job. I'm just saying.
This is a guy, you know, remember, who was just a game or two away from taking his team to a Super Bowl, which they won when Foles came in and took over. And since then, it's just been a spiral downward, hasn't it? He just, you know, wherever he's gone, he has been the Grim Reaper. There's free agent talk. Devlin Cook, Zeke Elliott, and also DeAndre, who don't have homes at the moment. Devlin Cook, if he lands at the Jets, although Miami are involved in this as well. But I want to talk to you about the Jets, because the JETS must be making noise in New York at the moment with the guy, the Swami, the Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, the mushroom eating, you know, Amazon tribe staying, dark room living Aaron Rodgers, the most interesting man in sport.
That is the best description of Aaron Rodgers I've ever heard, Marty.
Thank you,
I have to say that was well done. I've never heard so many good adjectives. Listen, the thing about Aaron Rodgers clearly is that he is great when he's doing well, and when he's bad, he throws people under the bus like nobody's business. But you know, you make this comment about Devlin Cook, and you're right. It's between the Jets and the Dolphins, but he hasn't really made an actual visit yet. You know, so it's a big question mark here, because really he is actually he's definitely a salary cap move by the Minnesota Vikings. They certainly think he's still good, and everyone thinks he's still good. He's 27 years old, and he's got he nearly put up 1,500 total yards and 10 touchdowns just a season ago, and he's had 4 consecutive 1,000-yard rushing seasons. So yeah, I mean, he's great. I think, you know, if he ended up there at the Jets, that would be a fantastic place for him. Aaron Rodgers could certainly use him, and we know how much Aaron Rodgers likes having a good ground game there, and he loves using his running backs as targets. I mean, right now, Breece Hall is who they have. He's recovering from season-ending ACL injury, and we saw what happened when he wasn't on the field. They had Michael Carter and they had Zonovan Knight, and they averaged no better than 3.5 yards per carry. That's not going to do it. All right. I mean, you and I can probably average that many yards per carry. So I think that at the end of the day, Devlin Cook going to the Jets, that would make Aaron Rodgers very happy. And we all know from his days with the Packers, if he's not happy, he's going to throw everybody else under the bus. And that's going to be a bad thing, because they're tied to him for a little bit.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable! Incredible!
The Platform.